For me, I want to give the client what they want. So they want that neighborhood. Okay, I'll stay on top of it. One came up and we were ready to go.
Welcome to the No Excuse Pro Podcast, your weekly dose of motivation and actionable advice. If you're a realtor, financial planner, business owner, or anyone who's tired of making excuses and ready to take your success to the next level, you've come to the right place. Join your host, Kevin Brierton, each week as he chats with industry leaders who are going beyond the excuses to achieve their goals. So no excuses accepted. Let's get started.
So we'll kind of get started at this point. And I really appreciate you jumping on. Like I mentioned to you, one of the reasons why I wanted to start this interview and podcast is because I believe that for too long, whether it's real estate agents, financial advisors, other business owners, some have figured out a way to go beyond the excuses and achieve their goals. And some are stuck in a situation where they're not able to overcome those excuses, and it consumes them and ultimately holds them back from what they really want to achieve in life. And if we can bring some insight on, what it takes to overcome those excuses, and none of us are perfect. I make some of my own excuses, and sometimes I have to make sure I hold myself accountable to going, hey, what did I do? Why did I do this? So I just want to learn more about you a little bit, Zach. I understand that you're an awesome real estate agent. You have experience in a couple different states as well. And now you call Arizona your home here in Scottsdale. So I know you're an amazing real estate agent. You do an awesome job. I want to jump in right away and just ask you, what do you believe in? What are the patterns in the formula that you believe are common in becoming successful? What are the patterns and formula?
Well, the patterns and formula, it comes down to one thing real easy. It's being full service, putting the customer or the clients first and their needs, instead of just worrying about how many transactions you do, which is very common in our business. Instead of that, worry about your client. Worry to do the best. What I'll do is work the hardest to make them happy, make them very happy at the end of the transaction, whether they're buying or selling a property, that it works out for them and it's smooth and easy and they got everything they wanted.
So let me ask you about that. So tell me about a time when a buyer or seller considered you a hero and why.
Okay, I'll give a good example. There was I got interviewed for a listing appointment. This was a beautiful house. It was about 4,000 square feet house. And there were two agents, me and another agent. She went with the other agent because it was her friend. So the seller. Now the other agent didn't, she got it tied up in escrow and wasn't able to close it. It fell apart. So the seller called me and said, "You're up. We know we got to drop the price now because of what happened." And I said, "No, because the house was beautiful and it was priced right." I said, "We're going to raise the price." And she was blown away because this house, it was worth it. It was beautiful.
That's not normal.
No. So I went and we raised the price by about 5%, and we sold it. I sold it full price a week later for a primary resident for a couple. So it just showed, everybody has their own the ways of doing things. I worked hard. I put her first. I know what she was going for, and it worked. So she to this day, she still sends me emails, and I send her emails, and we talk. And that was probably 6 years ago. So
yeah, how did that make you feel?
Oh, it made me feel really good. And the other part about it, I had some of the local agents there. They didn't want to show the house because of basically I was one city over my line. So I was in just a little bit past my border of the clicks and realtors. So they said, "We're not showing your property." So on top of that, I found my own buyer. And I called some of those guys and said, "Look, you didn't sell it. I found the buyer now. Now I represent both sides because they didn't want to work with me. I just worked harder and got it done. So it's just a matter of doing it and again, putting the client's needs first, seeing what they need and just working to fulfill that.
That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing that story because it's so easy for, agents, I think, to say, oh, let's just drop the price and move this quickly. They already told me they want to drop the price, but you held firm and then you actually went out and got the buyer as well, which is even more unique. Generally, it's just going to be listed and then just hope they sell it and go get another listing. But you really served that client. That's awesome. You really did help them. I think that's great. So tell me about a time you had to overcome. This sounds like kind of like an you're interviewing for a job, but I want to ask this as a deep question because I think it's important to think about. Tell me about a time when you had to overcome a major obstacle for a customer, and how did that make you feel?
Well, man, there's been a lot of times overcoming. It always feels good. I'm thinking of the most times overcoming. I think it would be mostly on I'm thinking of a situation of a buyer this time, and they wanted to be in a neighborhood. And this is the time where we were writing offers, and it was very difficult to get in because there were so many offers coming in. These properties were getting 10 to 15 offers, and they were getting discouraged. Well, they wanted to be in a certain neighborhood. The two houses that were for sale, we didn't get. They sold for a lot more. So what we did, instead of the obstacle, they want to be in this neighborhood. That was my challenge. And so the best thing to do was saying, let's wait till one comes up. Most realtors wouldn't do that because they want to move it. They want to keep going. For me, I want to give the client what they want. So they want that neighborhood. Okay, I'll stay on top of it. One came up and we were ready to go. So we went in and got this property for them, and they got it, and they were extremely happy. It took about 8 months total time from showing day one till closing. So it was, I think we waited for like 3 or 4 months, but we constantly stayed and I updated them. We stayed in touch and made sure everybody was on the same plan that we had, and they were very happy. And that was a tough obstacle because waiting that long sometimes not the best. People lose interest or stuff changes, but they were very happy at the end of the day.
So what I'm hearing is, because you were patient and the obstacle was really like probably for you more of as an agent going, hey, I want to get this sale, I want to go. But the obstacle was, hey, let's slow down, let's understand what the client actually wants, and then being patient enough to be able to see it through 8 or 9 months later, 7 months later. From what I'm hearing is patience is huge, because the reality is if you don't, if you're not around as a professional, I've been in the business 19 years, and it's like, man, I've seen a lot of people come and go, and being patient enough to be able to understand that the right thing is for the client, but also have staying power to make sure you're there at 9 months later, not 8 months later. So I think that's awesome. Patience I think that's a big deal. It's under valued, I think, in our business because of a high, anytime you are serving clients in a sales environment, it's like, what are we doing now today? But it's really what I found is the opportunity here is planting seeds and solving problems for people. And if we help people with their problems and we figure out how to solve them, sometimes it's this year, sometimes it's next year, sometimes it's 3 years from now. I think that's awesome. So that's my big takeaway there is your obstacle was, having to make sure you're overcoming the want to just get something done right away, but being patient enough to have the client's best interest at hand. I think that's super important, man. Well, tell me, I want to ask some interesting questions here. Have you ever given up on something that you wish you did not give up on?
There's, I really don't think there is, because I know this is a strange answer, but if I don't really give up, I'll just keep going. I mean, if it's something impossible, I won't really make it in my mind. I know it's kind of a long shot, but as far as items to give up on, I just don't give up. I just keep going. Eventually, you're gonna get it. That could be financially, that could be professionally, it could be family, any of those avenues. I just keep going till you get it done, I guess. So that's I know it's not a great answer, but
So when I was a kid, I always wanted to be an actor,
okay.
and at some point I gave up that dream, and I'm like, man, I guess now, I mean, we do a lot of videos, and we do, this podcast and other things. And so you kind of end up becoming a little bit of like that actor thing. And so, but I think there's a lot of times things that we, maybe wish we didn't give up on, that we forget about, just because maybe it's just a time in our life, or it passes, or there's a different reason why you wanted to do it. I think, being like the actor thing was like being a star, or feeling worthwhile or valued. And so when I think back on that, I think that was more why I wanted to be an actor than being actually an actor, So it's kind of interesting as we play this out over our lives of what happens and when we give up stuff. So with that frame, is there anything that you think you gave up on, good or bad? It's okay if you've given up on something. There's probably something out there that you gave up on. Is there anything that you gave up on that, you look back on, maybe it's okay that you wish you didn't, but I'm just kind of curious. Is there anything that you did give up on, maybe intentionally?
Well, I mean, I guess I always loved music, and I played drums my whole life. So
nice. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I played since I was a little kid, all through high school and different bands and all that kind of stuff. So fast forward to being in my 20s, working in the news media in San Francisco. Now, we were doing a story about like a making the band kind of school, a band school. So all the CBS, I worked for CBS there. So the radio and TV and all the CBS was in one building. So we did it as a story, but we grabbed all the people that had a little bit of musical talent, and we put the band together. And that band, we took it from one little story to playing for 8 years, and we opened for bands like the Journey, the Doobie Brothers, on stage with them. Wow. Played at big events, big arenas. We played for Bill Clinton, got to spend time with him. So it kind of took off, and it wasn't mostly because our skills or talent, because it was a lack of. It was fun. We wrote some fun music. It was kind of novelty music, but it was also because we had that tie with media. So that's one thing I always miss music is, I always love music, and to play and write music's fun. So that when that kind of came out, I felt like, oh, I gave up on it. But even though I was older, we got it together and it was fun, and I got a taste of a little bit of the professional side of that music business. And so that's one thing I kind of gave up on, music, I guess. So.
Well, it's, sometimes we have to give up on certain things, and maybe giving up a little too strong to allow for other things in our lives. One thing that was big on, that was a big influence on me, was a not to-do list. We sit here and we want to have all these different to-do lists, and how do I optimize my email, and how do I do this and this? And it's like, actually, do you even need to do it in the first place? Then if you delegate it, that's even worse, and you delegate something that doesn't need to be done. So giving up on something isn't bad necessarily, but it is important to think through, should I give up on something or not? So that's just my kind of thought about that. So tell me about a resource or service that you've provided that really changed the experience for your customers.
I think the service I provide is basically full service to the extreme. So what I'll do is I won't take on too much work, too many clients at once, because you lose that personal connection. Some realtors with big teams, they have the team owner who basically closes the deal or closes the listing, but then they have their interns or newbies working with those clients. Where with me, you actually get me. I'm still busy, and it works out, but I'm available. So whenever people text me, I'm responding back within minutes, always. And that's the biggest thing that I focus on, is that, because it brings return business for one, and two, it helps them get what they want. So the back to your question, the service or that I provide, that's the biggest thing for me. It's just being available and having the knowledge. Having knowledge is huge. Not just, it's not a numbers game, it's not a sales game. It's having knowledge and relationships. And coming from a builder background from my parents' side, I understand. I saw a lot of houses being built, and I understand a lot about the construction of it. So when sometimes these buyers will ask, "Oh, what's this?" or what, I'll know quite a bit just because of that background from my family.
So that might be something that is a little unique to you, is the builder background. Tell me a little bit more about that and how that's helped a client of yours.
So growing up, when I was a little guy, my dad, my father was a architect. So before flipping homes was a thing, this was in the mid 80s. It was called sweat equity back then. We would buy a house, and my dad would design additions to it, and we'd sell it and move on. We did it a lot until we got a little bit older and we slowed it down. So I grew up around flipping homes pretty much. Now, my stepfather, when I hit around 20, my stepfather is a builder. I helped and worked with him, not only selling the homes, but I helped manage some of the subcontractors, and he built these big homes, new construction. And I learned a lot from that, a lot on material, a lot on what to look for as far as what shortcuts builders will take, quality of products, building, craftsmanship, all that. And I learned a lot of that. So when we're out looking at homes with buyers, or even when sellers have me walk through their house, we talk about the different features that one are, people like, because it'll be a selling point. Or with buyers, we could look at even like comp roof. I know there's a lot of tile here in Arizona, but composition roof, just by looking at it, there's ways to tell how old it is with just looking at it. So just little things like that help a lot. And as far as adding on setbacks and all that kind of stuff, it's pretty kind of general idea. So if someone says, "Oh, I want to, maybe if I could extend this house out and there's a pool 10 feet away," it's not going to happen. It's too close to the pool. Some people might not know that. So that's what I try and add that knowledge into.
I mean, Zach, I appreciate that. That's huge. So we believe in, a lot of lenders or realtors even too will provide, the financing or the closing and find the house. And then they'll say, "See you later." It's like one of the biggest purchases that anybody takes on. I truly believe it's our professional responsibility to help them manage it on the front end of it, and also their long-term goals. So somebody has a house for 30 years and we just go, "Okay, bye." And rarely the statistics are staggering on how many people do say they would use the realtor that they used before, but they lost contact or never heard from the realtor. I just talked to a client of mine, amazing veteran, awesome client. I helped in 2015, and we just had a great conversation. Probably talked a little too long, but I mean, honestly, it was awesome. Great guy. He just retired from the postal service, and his kids are going to the military. And he's like, "Kevin, I rely on you. I call you to make sure I'm doing the right thing." We've helped him over the years. Or sometimes we've helped him refinance. We've also helped him not refinance over time. Mm-hmm. We helped him not sell his house because it was the right thing for him based on the numbers and data. So your knowledge is really, really important. Service is expected, right? You got to get back to people. You got to, they got to make sure that you're accessible and know how to access you, and how, whether it's text or phone or email, whatever your process is. But having a specialized knowledge is super important. So I appreciate you going a little layer deeper there. That builder background's big. You got to make sure people get into a house they want, because if you just say, "Oh yeah, you're fine," and then the roof caves in, that's a problem. Like, you got to do the due diligence, feel good about it. So when you do a closing call or you do an annual review call, you want to like be happy with the advice. Not everything goes perfectly, but we need to make sure that we vet out everything, we give them the knowledge. And I think that's a bigger deal than you first said service, but I actually think that builder knowledge is something that you could build around. I think that's a huge opportunity for you. It's huge. So
Thanks.
a couple of easy things. So I know we're coming up on time. I want to ask some other questions here, get you to think, get the wheels turning. What are important rules that you've learned about business that has made you even more successful? Give me a couple.
So the rules are, one of the big ones is don't, I know again, this doesn't sound big, but it pays off. Don't judge people by the way they look or the car they drive or any of that stuff, because you never know who's the buyer or the seller, and boy, there's been a lot of, I could go down a list of different stuff where someone didn't want to deal with a client in the office or this or that, and I'll spend time with them. And not only do they buy or sell with me, their family, and just because someone was looking them wrong way or judging them. So that's a big one.
Wow.
Another rule is, I always say it's business 101, just follow up and stay on top of it, on top of the job. It's easy to slip, especially when you're doing real estate or, like your job mortgages, where we are our own boss. So it's kind of easy just to push it away. And I think that's where a lot of people in this business start slipping and failing, where you just got to keep this 101 business going and just stay on top of basic stuff. So those are big. Those are little rules, but they're very powerful.
Well, not judging people is just huge because at first it's disrespectful to them.
Right.
And then you got to keep an open mind on how to help people. I think we, as some of the sales professionals, especially as the years go on, you go, well, I know what's best for this situation. And it's like, you got to be open-minded to, what they want and ask questions and really dig in and not judge on the surface of, oh, they don't want to do this or they want to do this. And then what you're talking about is the person's appearance as well. Mm-hmm. Try not to judge on the appearance, because it's easy, like, oh, they don't have the money to buy this house. Mm-hmm. Maybe, who knows, maybe they just have had the same clothes for 20 years because they didn't change and whatever, so I think that's a huge takeaway. I really appreciate that. I think something that's undervalued in success. So thank you for sharing that. So, all right, we're going to wrap up with a couple easy, we'll land the plane with a couple easy questions here. Okay. What is the biggest challenge buyers and sellers face right now?
Well, biggest challenge, it's usually the market condition, meaning with buyers, a lot of times it's just finding what they want in the budget and what they set out for. That's a big challenge. So that takes some time to kind of massage what they want. A lot of times they don't know what they want. So, not a lot of times, some of the times. So they're trying to figure it out. They want a house by the lake, or they want a house on the golf course. No, I don't. Now I realize there's too much noise. Or so it's real important to listen to them and think listen to what's important to them. And then you could kind of start putting some properties that might fit their criteria. And the challenge with sellers sometimes, usually it's the price. When sellers, they just want a certain price when it comes down to it. And and so it's again, you got to educate them on their house, what compared to other houses, what it's is it updated, is it outdated, all that kind of stuff, and educate them based on that. Because a lot of people, they've been in their house for 20 years. They haven't seen their neighbors or, the ones that have been selling. So they don't quite understand the comps in the area, what they look like or that thing. So it's a lot of education. It helps them. That's the biggest, I think, challenge to help kind of pull them together.
Well, I think you'd agree that there's unless you're an investor and that all they care about is the bottom line, there's some motivating factor for them to sell. Would you agree?
Yes.
It's not just definitely about money, because at the end of the day, like, there's a reason why they're selling. If it's their primary residence, there's there's a lot of people sitting on a lot of equity right now that are not selling. Well, why are they not selling? Because the pain isn't bad enough. The pain of whatever their situation is, whether they want a 3-car garage or 4-car garage, or they want to be closer to their kid's school or farther away from maybe the grandkids, whatever it is, the pain isn't big enough. So I think people get so focused on, especially if they're selling and buying, they get so focused on getting a high price for the home they're selling that they forget about why they're doing it. So I think that's the challenge we're facing is, sometimes they forget about why they're doing it when really they're not just doing it just because of the price. Just like right now, as people are like, well, rates are high. Well, yeah, in 2023, rates are high right now. You're not doing it because rates are high. You're doing it because you need a house. You need to live somewhere. What is the problem we're trying to solve? So that's what you're talking about is like, how do we get them to solve their problem, but understand that the price can actually hold them back from actually getting to what they want to do, whether it's, get money for retirement, move to out of state, whatever that situation is. We need to remind them that they have to price it right. One thing I heard was every listing should be within 5% of what you actually think it's going to sell for, otherwise you're wasting time.
No, that's true. And the on your note about making a move, I've done that with a lot of clients where they're I think I've had more clients where they're downsizing, like they're empty nesters, their kids have left, they got a big house and they want to downsize. I've done that more than the other way where they're up, with kids. It just seems like, I don't know, maybe I'm working with all the old people or something, but anyways, I've done that a lot. And again, it's a lateral move. So, hey, the market, and this is part to explain to them, it doesn't matter what the market could be, super hot, it could be cold, it could be, anything. It's a lateral move. So if you're going from one house to the other, well, my house is not as much, or it's really high, I don't want to buy that. Well, you're going to get a high price on yours, even though you're paying for high. It's still lateral. So it's not like a stock where you're selling it and then cashing it out, unless you're totally cashing and begin to rent forever. But most of the time they're doing a lateral move. So they're buying one, selling one. So in the market conditions don't really matter for that, especially being your primary residence. So and some people don't think like that. They just think, oh, it's a good time to sell. Yeah. But when you buy, it's going to be. That's.
Well, that's awesome. And I think I really appreciate your time. And, let's think about where you go from here. So you've been successful as a real estate agent for a lot of years. You had success in the news realm as well, and I know you do a great job for your clients. What do you want on your resume in the next 2 years?
In the next 2 years, on the resume, it would be kind of fun to have a few maybe a few custom homes built and sold. That would be fun. Go back to those days. And of course, I'm always loving, this isn't really much on the resume, but I always love great reviews from clients, the Google reviews. And I just love when they're happy, and it really shows those clients.
So custom homes, that's exciting. Have you put that's obviously kind of a big overarching opportunity. I know you've done a lot of work on your own house as well. And I think you're a licensed contractor, kind of doing your own stuff. So that's exciting. We'll definitely have to dive into that a little bit more on another call. So let's go a little shorter term, 90 days out. What do you want to accomplish in the next 90 days and why?
Well, I would just like to, I mean, it comes down to helping more people find or sell their homes. A lot of homes right now aren't selling as fast. And I love, it's fun helping buyers buy because they are happy and they're exciting. But I like the selling process, the listing process, because me, it's challenging, and you really get to lay out marketing plans and attack it kind of like we did in the media. So I enjoy listing homes because I get to really go forward with it, with the advertising, be creative. And that's what I would like to do more of. in the next 90 days, get some listings. And it is, the higher price, it's a little harder to sell too, to fewer buyers. So I again, the price range doesn't matter. It's just the listings. I really like taking listings and working with them, being creative. And it's just really fun for me.
Okay, cool. Well, what's your goal as far as how many houses you want to help families sell? You have a goal in the next 90 days that you're trying to, have X amount of houses you're trying to help sell?
Yeah, my goal normally year to year, well, I guess this coming year is 24 closings. So that'd be 20, basically 2 a month. And that's very doable. I've done more than that in the past for a year. So I try and keep my goals relative to the amount of the amount of activity there is in the market. So 24 would be cool. I never pick listings over buyers as far as what I'm shooting for. I kind of do both. So I don't really put one above the other, even though I like doing listings better. But so it's just 24, sales, which would be about 2 months. Some months are slower. So there might be 4. It gets busy if you get too many. So that's my goal.
So in the next 90 days, though, what do you think if you shorten that? So one thing I've learned in this journey of being a no excuse professional is you got to have longer goals and then shorter goals, right? Your longer goal is maybe I like to build a custom house. Shorter goal is help more people buy and sell. Emphasis on selling because you enjoy creating the marketing plan, brings you back to your days of building out news information and that. But then it got wider again, went to 24 per year. So how and I want you to think through this because again, this is why this is the meat of it, right? Because we want to help people change their lives and get clear on why they're doing what they're doing. So why do you even want to help more people sell a house? Like what's important about that to you?
Well, for one, it's a big deal for them. I mean, if they're trying to downsize or they're trying to move near family, a lot of people leave the States because they're chasing their kid who just got married, or they want to be by their mom who's ill. So that's real. It's cool to help them, and then it's cool to give them a good price, get a good price for the house. They're really excited, they're happy, and that's the main thing, is helping the people with that transition in life. It's a big deal. It's very stressful for some people. Some people really, it's just huge. For most people, it's not that. You think of selling a house, not a big deal, but it's a lot of, especially if they raise their kids in it, they don't, they have all this value, they remember raising their family for 20 or 30 years, some of these people in their homes. So they're tied to it, like a chandelier, which you think, oh, that's worthless. To them, it's gold. So it's real. You got to really help people kind of step away from the personal attachment with the house. I mean, it sounds a little easier than it is, but a lot of people are really tied. It's hard. So I like helping people with that and showing them that transition. Hey, this is just stuff. This house, it has a lot of memories, but you're going for a reason, for your mom or your kid or whatever, or, you're moving for a reason mostly. And I help them realize that. So it's not just a mechanical sale. That's why I call it a relations game, not a sales game. It's not about the numbers to me. It's about doing the best for them and helping them, helping them, the whole package, helping them through this process.
So I've done a lot of soul searching on this because, after 19 years of this business, you go through, I've been on a small broker side, call center side, high number volume call center. And I'm going to challenge you on that a little bit. That it's not just about the numbers. I do think at some point there is a portion of how many people we need to want to help and why. Because I truly believe, Zach, I've seen you in action. You are a blessing for the buyers, sellers. You do an awesome job with your knowledge. And I've got to a point where I'm confident that my advice matters. and the way I provide that matters. And it's my obligation to step up and help people. And that's why I have a number, not just because it's a number, but there's relevance behind it. I want to help 300 families per year with their home loan, whether it's buying, refinancing or purchasing. And the way I'm doing that is helping my partners be as successful as they want to be. And I know the impact on good advice because I saw bad advice during the subprime years. So I believe that there's bad advice, just jamming somebody only caring about the numbers, but the numbers keep you focused. There has to be a why behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think of an iceberg, the numbers are like the tip of the iceberg, right? So it's like all the activities we're doing. Okay, great. You did all this stuff. This is what shows. But on the base of an iceberg, it's a huge base behind underneath the water that you don't see. So what that is purpose, your vision, your mission, all of that is below the surface. And the iceberg is the tip. The numbers just say, okay, great, you helped this many people, but you really need to know why you're helping them, what you're doing. So it isn't just a number. It doesn't represent just a number. But I do think we don't serve our clients at the highest level without having a number. It's kind of like if you go to the gym and work out every day, but you never weigh yourself and you're just like, oh, I'm fine, I'm just working out. Or you have to have some sort of target at some point. So, I mean, you obviously have 24 per year. So I'm going to ask you, what do you want to accomplish? And there's no right or wrong answer here, but what do you want to accomplish over the next 90 days? That would be like your big, like, man, if I can do this, it'd fill me up inside. I'd be able to do X, Y, Z. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what do you want to accomplish in the next 90 days?
90 days. Well, I think it would just be helping more people selling and buying. I mean, in 90 days, so 3 months, I mean, if I could help, 6 to 9 people get in or transition, that would be awesome.
What would it take to get there?
Well, it's just getting more giving more advice and listening to needs and getting in front of more people that might need to sell or buy. And that's the biggest thing is, in my community here, I focus real tight in my little community, but I still do business outside of it. So what I do is I try harder in my little community because I know so much about it and I know the people and I know the schools. And so that is what I really focus on, and kind of being someone in the community. So people get to know you, and it does work. And they know that you're not just a quick selling person. You're in that community.
Remind me what communities, like, you're in Scottsdale. Is there any community specifically here in Arizona, in Scottsdale, Arizona, that you're in?
Yeah, I try and sell. Scottsdale is a big enough city. I focus just mostly on Scottsdale. I do other areas in the East Valley. So I don't really do West Valley, but I focus East Valley, Scottsdale particular, and the micro community is Cactus Corridor, which is still a good sized community. So I focus a lot in Cactus Corridor, and I know a lot of builders, I know a lot of realtors here, I know a lot of people, and this is the community I really focus on, the schools and all that. So it's pretty fun, but anywhere in Scottsdale.
Well, I'm excited for you. I know that putting a number down as far as 6 to 9 makes it a little bit more difficult, but I think that is part of being a no excuse professional, is giving ourselves first why we're doing it, which I totally hear you. You have a big heart and you have a big why, and then also going, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? Picking the number and then how we're going to get there. So I'm so grateful for you to be on here. You shared a lot of wisdom. a lot of good takeaways, took a ton of notes here. Thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it again, you jumping on here. It means a lot to me. And I think that, even if we can change one person's trajectory here, that could be a big deal. I'm excited. Hopefully it could change a lot more than that. I got to put a number around that of how many people I want to impact, but I'll get there,
Thank you. And you're the best lender out there. So I just gotta say, this was all about me, but it's a team, and you do your part more than your part when we work together. So just gotta put that out there.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Well, you have a good one. And I know we'll talk soon. Okay. Have a good one. We'll talk to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
And there you have it, folks. Another enlightening episode of the No Excuse Pro podcast is in the books. A heartfelt thank you to today's guests for sharing their wisdom, and to you, our valued listeners, for spending your time with us. If you're ready to ditch the excuses and level up, make sure to subscribe and find all our episodes at noexcusepropodcast.com. Don't forget, the only thing standing between you and your goals is the story you tell yourself. So no excuses accepted here. Take action and make it happen.